Do you get anxious about making mistakes when you're trying to speak your target language? Maybe you felt pressure to put a sentence together quickly, only to be faced with someone staring back at you blankly, trying to figure out what the hell you mean. You want to improve, but progress can feel frustratingly slow. And in fact, by trying to speak perfectly, you actually might be making what you're saying worse. So in this video, we'll look at what the problem is and the simple mindset shift to reduce your stress and improve your speaking. Hi there. If you're new here, my name's Matt and I'm learning Spanish and Mandarin. On this channel, I talk about language learning and the mindset and habits you need for success, as well as practical tips to get you closer to fluency. So if you're worrying about making mistakes and not being fluent, tell me, what is fluency? Genuinely, let us know down in the comments what you think it is. Now, I guarantee you that everyone isn't going to be writing the same thing because, you know, it's the internet. But that's the point. Is it when you're proficient in using the language day to day? Is it when you stop making mistakes? Because native speakers make mistakes. In fact, I think my English is getting worse the more Spanish I put in my head, I swear. Have you gone to say anything in English and your target language comes out? Just so we can all have a laugh, let us know any funny stories that have happened to you down in the comments as well. Now, I'm sure we can all think of native speakers who technically make grammatical errors. There is a point though where we can ask, who is it that gets to decide what the right way to phrase something is? Languages aren't fixed and they change as people use them to communicate. And so at a point, debating what fluency is sort of pointless, right? Learning languages are about making connections with people and their culture. Yes, we do want to try not to make mistakes and be understood, ideally, but you're not going to become a native speaker, even if you do get really, really good. Of course, we want to be able to talk in detail about a wide variety of topics, but if you were to ask someone who's not a speaker of that language what a fluent speaker looks like, I think that although people use different words to describe it, the general sentiment would be that from the outside, it seems like a fluent speaker can have a smooth conversation without any real additional effort for either person involved. But what does that look like in practice? There are a few things we can do, but the key thing is that someone who's seemingly able to have a smooth conversation isn't going to look tense and nervous. The more pressure we put on ourselves to get things perfect, the more likely we are to make mistakes as we're self-conscious of our own performance. You've probably heard of the idea of a flow state where you're so focused on a task that you just lose track of time. But we can't do that if we're feeling uptight about our own performance. Now, I totally get that telling someone, just chill out, normally does the complete opposite. But if you notice that you're getting anxious, you can remind yourself that making a few mistakes won't ruin the conversation. After all, what's more important, having perfect grammar or getting your point across and being able to connect with someone? Enjoy making connections with people, and that will help to relax you, I think. People aren't there waiting to judge you. And to be honest, if they are, then they're the sort of person whose opinion isn't worth worrying about anyway. And 100% people will appreciate that you're making an effort. Another element is having a bit more cultural knowledge. And I know that can seem random, but it can make such a huge difference. I remember being at a large gathering in China and I looked up and there's this guy looking straight at me and he stuck out his hand, and for a second I thought he was saying, go away. And then my brain kicked in and I remembered that the come here hand gesture that we've got in Europe, in China is the other way around. And so he wasn't telling me to leave, he was telling me to come over so that we can have a chat. Knowing about that sort of thing can reduce your anxiety when you're in situations with people where you can get some practice in. On top of that, if you're worrying so much about what you're going to say and trying to get things perfect, you're going to be a less attentive listener. You might miss some of the details of what someone is actually saying to you if you're already planning the next sentence in your head. Another practical way to reduce the burden on yourself is to keep what you're saying simple and understandable instead of making your life too hard. So instead of saying something like, I was planning on meeting my friend at this busy cafe later, but it turns out that she texted me to say she's running late. So now I need to figure out whether I should wait for her or I should just go home. An easier way to say it would be to break it down and say, I was going to meet my friend at this cafe. She texted me. She said she's running late. I don't know if I should wait or go home. This way you can lower your stress levels while still communicating your ideas. That will help you to have confidence when you're speaking too. And when it comes to confidence, there is a certain amount of just fake it until you make it. Now, I know that can sound a bit cringe, but the more you seem relaxed, I think the person you're speaking to is going to pick up on that. Imagine someone goes to talk to you and they seem super stressed. Oh, hi. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I'm not quite sure. You're already going to seem less relaxed yourself. So the more you can keep the conversation relaxed and build rapport with the person you're talking to, the more you're going to feel more comfortable as a result. Communication also isn't just your grammar. It's your body language, your expressions and your gestures, and those will all help you to build rapport with someone. Just because you use the wrong conjugation has not completely ruined the social interaction. The more you can enjoy those sorts of experiences, the more you're going to get that dopamine hit from having made connections with people. That will add fuel to the fire so that you put more time and effort into your language learning, which leads us on to the mindset shift that hopefully will bring this all together. If you're the sort of person who feels pressure to speak perfectly, then hopefully this mindset shift will help. Fluency is a journey. The more pressure you put on yourself, potentially the worse you'll perform. The main thing though is that you can't make progress without mistakes. Like honestly, you're not a native speaker. You're not going to fool anyone. Just embrace it and focus on making connections with people in conversations. It will be such a shame not to embrace opportunities to speak to people just because you're concerned with making a few errors here or there. And yes, we do want to improve, of course, but you can connect with people without nailing every grammatical structure. That stuff will come with time. The more you obsess over mistakes you make, the less enjoyable language learning will be. You'll be so much more likely to give up if it stresses you out and it's not something that you enjoy long term. Remember what it was that got you interested in learning the language in the first place. It certainly wasn't use grammatical rules correctly. The longer you wait to be closer to perfection, the more you're missing out on just interacting with people now. Celebrate small wins like using a new word in conversation, using a new sentence pattern, or even just following along with content. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with perfectionism. Like if you can't speak the language well, you've just wasted all of this time. But to be honest, holding yourself to unrealistic standards ignores something that is deeper than just language learning. It's part of the human experience. Humans aren't perfect. That's what makes us interesting. Let's say you do make some embarrassing mistake using your target language. So what? It might actually just make for a good story, and it can highlight which things you need to work on. It's about progress, not perfection. If you're not making mistakes, it might mean you're staying inside your comfort zone, which is an excellent way to make sure you don't make any more progress. For that reason, I'd encourage you to be in situations where you're likely to make mistakes. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Having a little self-compassion can make all the difference when it comes to learning a new language. Most people don't care. They're normally too focused on themselves and what's going on in their lives to be concerned with minor mistakes. So give yourself permission to make mistakes. You'll enjoy the process so much more, and you'll probably improve your language skills as a result. That can give you the renewed motivation you need to succeed. If you want to try and improve your speaking skills, then check out this video here for a method I tried last year and the journey I went on to try and speak perfectly.